right. So let's switch gears. Let's talk about Florida, Miami. This is game days, game of the week, which is mind blowing to me. I know they don't want to always pick these all SEC games, but I cannot and understand how Oklahoma Auburn isn't a better destination for game day this week than Florida, Miami. But here we are. Maybe that helps the Florida faithful that would like a new head coach if this happens, front and center on game day and we get lectured for 3 hours about culture. But, Miami beat USF 49-12 the week after USF upset Florida. Miami seems to be clicking on all cylinders. Their defense looks really good. Obviously, they're putting up some points. Is there any world where UF can upset Miami?
You want to go first?
Yeah, either way. I think the answer to that is yes. I'm not trying to just cater to the UF fans or hate on Miami. There is a world where that happens, right? I think it's DJ Lagway obviously being 100% sharper than he was on Saturday, but their secondary is still their biggest weakness. I still think that, listen, I hate to admit this, and we probably all three hate hearing it, but Miami to me has the most impressive resume in the country. Like if preseason rankings weren't a thing, I think Miami would be the number one team in the country right now. I think what they've done has been that impressive. And so, there is a path. And so even for a top 5 team, or maybe who I would have as the number 1 team, I think that their secondary is still the weakness. And so if Florida can be more accurate through the air, then I think they're in good shape. I think Florida has struggled to run the ball at times and struggled to give the ball to their best player out of the backfield. And so I don't have a lot of faith in them being able to run the ball super effectively. And so that puts more weight on DJ Lagway's shoulders. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if he bounced back. I said that last week too, though. It wouldn't surprise me at all if they're able to come back. I don't want to take anything away from LSU's defense and just put it all on Lagway because their secondary is really good. Miami's isn't. And so I do think you saw USF have some success. You saw TJ Carr in his first game have some success passing on Miami's secondary. And so, that's the path. And then defensively, I think Florida will be really good. And I think they'll keep them in this game for as long as possible if the offense can muster anything at all. Which, outside of the LIU game, obviously they haven't been able to muster anything. So I think the path is, your defense plays lights out again like they did against LSU. Maybe Beck gives you a couple. He's thrown some risky passes, though it hasn't really burned him yet. And then Lagway is better. And that's what it all, okay, TJ, you just said the defense is good and the offense is good, so they might win. But if Lagway is sharper and can limit his turnovers to 1 mistake instead of 5, which the game was kind of out of reach at that point anyway, once he's throwing those ones in the fourth quarter. But, I do think that that's the path. Is Lagway is much better than he was, and you take advantage of their secondary because that's the weakest part of their team.
Will, what do you think?
Yeah, Carson Beck threw 3 picks to this Florida team last year in Jacksonville. So he does not like playing Florida very much. And Florida's defense this year, I'm willing to say it's better than it was last year. So can they get to him again? Can they cause some issues? I do think the Miami's offensive line is incredible. So I do think it'll be pretty hard for Florida to get pressure on Beck. Because they got 0 sacks against Nussmeier, and that was a way better situation to get pressure and sacks than it is this week. So I'm worried about that. But the Florida secondary likes Carson Beck, so we can see how we'll see how that goes again this weekend. And like TJ said, Lagway can't be worse in theory, right? That was the bottom of it, of what we saw last week. So if he's able to improve, and a bunch of those picks, he's throwing into double and triple coverage. This is the 4th interception. There are 3 guys. It was the same pick that Jackson Dart threw in the swamp last year. It's 3 defenders and 1 receiver. It's just things that you almost never see really from anybody. So can he clean up the mental aspect of the interceptions? Will he still have some bad throws that get picked off? Sure, why not? But I don't think he can be worse. The offense, I think, we'll see how they fight. I think this week, Mike, I have more questions about how much they fight than I did last week, because with the alma mater, with potential locker room issues, I am probably worried about how this team comes out and responds. But in terms of Beck, I think they can get Carson Beck a few times. Like he just said, he's throwing some risky passes, and offensively, I don't know if they can be any worse.
Yeah, I think talent-wise, these teams are so similar to each other. They have recruited at a similar clip. Florida has actually developed more NFL talent over the last 3 years than Miami has. My main concerns come from mental toughness and in-game coaching. And I don't no game this season has made me more comfortable about those things than I was prior to the start of the season. In fact, it's the exact opposite. But I do think that DJ Lagway has such a strong arm and is such a good talent that I cannot imagine at some point he doesn't start putting it together. This is worse than what we saw out of Lagway last year as a true freshman. So even if last year was his ceiling, we know he's much more capable than what we're currently getting at the moment out of him. I do think he's a competitor. I do think he's a student of the game. So the odds are in the favor of him putting this together. Now, does he put it together for Miami is, a different question, but I'm interested to see if any adjustments are made moving, into this game. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I feel like that is the Billy Napier era kind of in one quote. But there is still time to right the ship. I as a Gator fan, I will always root for Florida to right the ship, and I hope we win every game for the rest of the season. Now, whether or not I think that's actually going to happen is different than what I'm personally rooting for. But in theory, changes could be made, and this team could be a lot better on Saturday. I do think this defense has the ability to keep it close. I do think that Beck does not play well against Florida historically, and I do believe that this is a playoff caliber defense. And I really think if this offense could just figure out a way to just be serviceable, it could carry this Florida team a long way. You don't actually have to go out and score 40 points, but you do need to be able to score 21. And that is where Florida has fallen short both of the last two games. But I think if you score 24, you probably can beat this Miami team. As long as your defense plays like we've seen the rest of the season. It just seems like such an uphill climb to picture this team scoring 20 points, which is wild when we're talking about an offense, whose commander was predicted to be in New York by, at least one of the people sitting on this panel this summer. But I don't know. TJ, if you could fix one thing for Florida going into this game that you think would make a big difference, what would it be?
I don't know. That's freaking tough. Outside of the head coach, I probably Lagway, right? Like his confidence. And maybe a bigger picture thing would be so now I've mentioned three things, but a bigger picture thing would be their mental toughness, which maybe his confidence would fall inside of that. But yeah, they're not very mentally tough. If they go down 14 in this game, which is very possible with how good Miami's offense has been so far this year, they go down 14 in this game. Like, do they have any fight back? Like you just saw Georgia do it last week, right? Down 14, who cares? There's a long game. Florida goes down 14 in the first quarter, and this one, that game's over. Like we all change. I mean, you guys won't, but like we all change our TV channels, right? Like to something else that's going on at the same time. And so that mental toughness that Florida just doesn't have, whether we're spitting on guys or holding on, touchdown plays they're getting called back, or just everything or anything that could happen, they're just not very mentally tough. And that's on coaching. Like that's, but there is some on the players too. There's accountability. There's self-accountability too, of just like, dude, this is a rival. This is a top 5 team. We're not getting embarrassed today. Like we all got, most of this team was there last year. We all got embarrassed at home last year in a season we were super excited about. Like this ain't happening again. So I think mental toughness would be probably more than any of the X's and O's, more than any of Lagway's footwork, more than any of his bad decision making, more than any of the running game. We struggle to figure out why they won't go to ball. It is absolutely just they've got to be tougher mentally.
But is that something that can be changed in a week?
Probably not in a week. There's some soul searching. I'm sure there's a lot of pointing out the positives of, man, we had this. If not for this, we had, look at the defense, look at the special teams playing well, this, that, and the other.
Part of the problem is the amount of positives that are pointed out.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just me.
Maybe you don't want, to focus on, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, they did it last year, they got punched in the mouth a couple of times last year and they responded. And so now they've been punched in the mouth a couple of times this year, and maybe they can respond to be tougher. I think Miami's a better team right now than, LSU or Ole Miss or Florida State or any of the teams that Florida beat in the second half of last year that we thought were good wins. Not Florida State wasn't a good win, but the way they beat them was. So I think that's what's tough is can they Can they flip that switch again last year? Because I mean, yeah, can they do it in 6 days? I don't know, but I think that they did it last year, so there's something that they could kind of pull out of that team. But I mean, you can be as mentally tough as you want. In the same time, you can't throw more than 2 interceptions in a game, and really 2 is probably too many. But yeah, like that would be my concern there is, I mean, it can be done, but who knows, man.
Well, what about you?
I mean, I'll go like X's and O's here. I'm worried about Florida's offensive line in this game because they have not looked near as good as as we thought they were going to be over the summer so far. And Miami's defensive line, I'm not sure you can name me 3 that are better in the country. So we talked about Lagway needing to be sharper, needing to be more confident. I don't know how confident he can be if Ruben Bain is breathing down his neck the entire game. So the blocking is going to have to be better, and that starts with the running game. Can you slow down the pass rush by having Jaden Ball go for 5 yards to carry? He'll do it, but are you going to give him the ball? We'll see. So I'd probably say the offensive line play is what I'm going to look at because if Lagway is going to improve, if Florida's going to be able to keep up with Miami's offense, they're going to have to block that front 7 for Miami.
All right. Score prediction time. TJ?
Yeah, I said this last week, and I guess Florida did keep it kind of close, but I think it's relatively close, but I think Miami wins by probably 14. I don't know, something like, and I do have a lot of faith in their defense, but I don't in their offense. So I don't know. Yeah, I'll say 10 points, 30-20. I think Florida's offense gets going a little bit better against a weaker defense, a weaker secondary, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. Maybe that's a little high scoring against Florida's defense, but eventually I don't have faith that Lagway protects the ball. And so there could be some stuff that's like short fields for Beck and all that. So 30-20 Miami.
What you got, Will?
I'll say 27-17. Miami just a little below TJ. I do think this game's going to go under that total. I think it profiles as, Florida's defense will be good against Miami, and Florida's offense, that matchup of the trenches, I think, is really, really bad for the Gators. And I do wonder about what TJ just said about this team quitting, because I think it's totally possible that if they get down by 10, we could see that happen.
All right. I wrote down 21-10. So obviously very similar to this LSU game, but I just, until they show it to me, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in this offense to put up points. And I would probably venture to say that there's a possibility that at least some of those 10 points don't actually come from Florida's offense, but Florida's defense. Particularly with the way that Beck likes to sling it around there.
2 field goals and 2 safeties.
Good Lord. That is hopefully not a possibility, but you never know these days.